Hello and welcome to Let Me Be Your Game Guide, a podcast that spends each episode delving into a mystical new video game, exploring its charms and challenges, and helping you decide if it should be next on your list. I'm your host Emma, and with me are my co-hosts Rylan and Sean. Join us for this week's spoiler-filled discussion episode as we escape reality and enter the metaphysical. For the remainder of this episode, let me be your game guide.
Yes.
Hello.
A ranger, Chin.
Wow.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
That would have been funnier if this thing wasn't here. It sounded like I was, yeah.
Oh, well, this is the second episode covering a ranger.
A role puzzling RPG.
Yes.
A role puzzling adventure.
Yeah, but
There's no role in this.
well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's a lie.
It's Well, before we get too far into this, we mentioned this into the lie.
Yeah.
We mentioned this during our last episode. If you didn't listen to it, go ahead and go back and listen. That's when we do our spoiler-free rating. You can kind of get an idea of how we felt about this game. But we mentioned in the very beginning, it's October. I realize that. Oh, but this is releasing in November. Wow, gosh, time works so weird.
Magic.
This is crazy. December, we're doing something that we think is really cool. Rylan, do you want to talk about it again?
We're doing the 12 days of demos on the days leading up until Christmas. So just a fun holiday time for us to play some demos, share them with one another and with y'all, and just a chill. If you check out Steam or the Switch, there's all sorts of demos, way more demos than I thought. We've selected some to play and talk about, and it's just fun. So these will be releasing on the regular channels, so Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., but also on our Patreon. So check it out next month.
Yeah. And it's not going to be part of our Patreon tier or anything like that. It'll be free. This is just our gift to you as a thank you for listening. So if you haven't followed the podcast yet, hit follow so you can get those reminders when those start coming up in December. I think that'll make it, gosh, we'll be releasing almost like 15, 16 episodes in that month with all those little bonus episodes. So it's going to be awesome. And we're already thinking about it because
they're short, you guys. So if you're like, that's a lot of episodes, they're like 10 minutes long. So.
Yeah. You also do get the live reaction from the other two folks. So like if I did the demo, like Emma and Rylan don't know about that demo and don't know anything about it. And so you get reactions from them and questions from them just like you would get. So that kind of helps fill it in and make it fun.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we'll probably be plugging that every episode until it starts happening, just because I think it's really cool. I know you guys think it's really cool.
I'm excited.
And if you guys are looking for some extra content, this podcast is going to have it in December. So just be looking out for that. Anyways, we can get on to a ranger. Rylan had a wonderful, wonderful explanation in our last week's episode about how the gameplay of this game works, and I'm not going to make him re-explain it. He did such a wonderful job in our last episode. So again, if you did not listen to episode 10.1, you could even just go back and listen to the very beginning chunk. It's right before we get into our rating section, and there's just a great description of how the gameplay works.
It's very unique.
Yeah. So, but we're just going to spend this episode deep diving into the real meat of this game. So let's just get into it, unless you guys had anything else you wanted to talk about.
No, let's do it.
So the game opens up and it does have a little bit of an introduction. There's a woman and she's carrying a baby, and this is where you get introduced to the mechanics of the game. And this is where you first see the beautiful graphics of almost a graphic novel playing out in front of you as your character moves. And this is also kind of the opening of this plot that, in my opinion, doesn't really get buttoned up but
Nope.
whatever. And this mother or this woman leaves this baby at the gate of this place. And then it flashes forward to your character being an adult. Well, I don't know, young adult, maybe?
She could be like 17 or so.
Yeah. It turns out that you've been raised in kind of like an orphanage style home, not in a bad situation. It seems like everyone around you really loves you, but you've just been yearning for belonging, feeling like you know someone like you, because everyone in town isn't like you. They don't move the way that you do. And so this beginning of this game is leaving town and exploring the world around you, and that's what kicks off your whole adventure. So this first act that we'll talk about is leaving your hometown, meeting some people outside of your hometown, and then really how the adventure kicks off. So there's a bunch of characters that we meet in town. Some of them are notable, some of them are not. What did you guys have any characters that just stuck out to you?
That wizard.
Yeah,
The
wizard
mage.
for sure. Yeah,
He was so funny. And
Mage
cranky.
Micah.
Yeah.
yeah, he was pretty fired up. And like in the beginning, you're trying to store your stuff away so you can leave this town. And yeah, you ask him if you can store your stuff there, and he's like,
Hell no.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Like, what are you, stupid?
Yeah.
Well, you also talked to the mayor, and the mayor looked like a creepy little baby to me.
Mhm.
He just looked so weird. I remember this was like the first character that I was like, what the fuck is going on? He has
Not
like
the last one, though.
a little weird, like toupee looking blonde haired, middle parted. It was weird.
Mhm.
He wasn't weird. It was just the way that his character was made.
Well, he was very political. Like he was like, "Oh, well, only if I get your vote can you store your stuff here." Like, yeah.
Yeah. So this whole section, you're just trying to store your stuff, and then you end up storing it in Nimbus's house, and Nimbus is someone who apparently left a while ago, but you run into Nimbus on your way out. And I don't know, this was a little confusing to me because on your way out the gate, you've started learning about this static, and everyone's scared of the static, and the hold is protecting us from the static. But as you're leaving town, Nimbus, it's like he never left. He like made it right outside the gate.
Or right to the edge of the gate or something.
Yeah, right to
then
the
he's
edge.
static.
Yeah,
right
he's
there.
completely consumed by static. And that was kind of confusing to me.
Mm-hmm.
Again,
Kinda
this
scary.
is it's scary, but this is a moment in the plot where I thought it was going to get explained, and then it never really does. I mean, it kind of does, but
You kind of learn more about the properties as the game goes on, but it doesn't really. Yeah.
it seems weird to me that he's just been out there chilling.
Like so close to town too.
Yeah.
Like if somebody like, oh, maybe I'll walk my dog this direction today, they would have seen him.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it was behind the locked door, though, wasn't it? And like
Yeah.
nobody wanted to go out of town. They're like the door
yeah.
guy was like, I'm
Yeah.
repairing the door all the time just so I can keep the static out.
Painting
Yeah.
it too.
Yeah. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
you talk to him, and then you have your first boss fight.
Mm-hmm.
And did you guys think it was hilarious? Like you start in your like house that you I guess like grew up in with this woman, and like as you start to move, you're just screwing up the whole house.
Oh yeah, I took like a bed out with me, or like the oven, like
Like
came
the
out
oven
with me
came out
outside.
with me, yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, this is chaotic.
Well,
Yeah.
and as you start like moving through the town, like the first like 2 minutes I started playing, there was someone on a ladder like trying to fix a building, and you knock them off the ladder and it crashes, and they're like, I don't even want to talk to you. Like, oh, sorry, man.
Yeah. No, this game just did a really good job with its space and making humor out of just
Yeah.
movement.
And I do kind of appreciate how like the plot was like kind of based around that movement, whereas like other people moved like quote unquote like normally, where they just like they move around on the grid, but when you move, the whole row and column move and you script everything. So
Yeah.
all these characters are like, Gemma, Like, stop
Yeah.
screwing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in your hometown, before you leave, you do get a little, as you're trying to find a space for your clothes, this is where you get some introductory puzzles that teach you how to use the sword puzzle that's used throughout. It's basically just moving a sword around to hit things.
Into like a static monster.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
kind of your version of combat. You don't get a lot of variety in the puzzles. I think that there was that bell puzzle right before you left town where you kind of had to arrange. You had to get the cat in there because one of the bells was broken and you had to ring all three bells at the same time. But of course, you're moving on a grid, so you have to be careful about which bell you're moving because sometimes you'll move both at the same time and then it'll screw it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to ask Rylan about that because I was really confused on how you're
Yes.
supposed to move all of them at the same
Yeah.
time.
I thought it was really clever though that like, oh, you don't just have the puzzle in this room. Like, you need to go get the cat and like drag it with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun. And then you do have this boss where you have to make the monster kind of fold back on itself. So as you move, you kind of like start on a square near the monster and you have to strategically move yourself so the monster's body, however many like body pieces it has to wrap around so it ends with like hitting itself in the
like
head.
at the end of it.
Yes. And there are a couple, like, I don't know, a couple puzzles that use this same mechanic, but in a different way. So it feels different.
Yeah, I felt like this intro area had like a lot of like teaching you the basics. Like, sometimes you have to loop back to their side to like get through an area. And like, this is what a static block looks like that like will not move and things can't push into it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But after that, everyone kind of blames you for causing a ruckus and opening the gate at all because now they think the static's going to get in. And your best friend Robbie is like, I hope you find what you're looking for. And then
Yeah, Robbie's always cool.
Robbie's a homie.
Robbie's
For sure.
yeah, very cool. But you do leave and you get some more scenes of that graphic novel flashing across the screen as you're moving. 10 out of 10. I love it. It's the best. And then you encounter a gentleman out painting. And this was another really creepy moment for me.
Wait, yeah, just some random old guy you find in the woods and he's like painting random stuff and you're like,
Well,
oh.
you think
Old man
he's
shrub.
You think
Oh, yeah,
that-
the shrub, yeah.
you think he's painting sheep,
Yeah, you got to get all the sheep and then you got to shave them.
Yeah.
but they're not sheep. You
None of them
shave
are
them.
sheep.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was awful. I hated. They were like weird, creepy. One of them was like a strong man, but then the other was like a weird, deformed. I don't know. They looked so creepy.
So I
to
wrote
me.
down dog ? One of them might have been a dog. One of them was definitely a fish
Yes, that's
Yeah.
true.
that you shaved. Mm-hmm. And the other one was just straight up a man.
Yeah.
And that man's name. Oh, I deleted the
He
quote,
was creepy.
But as you leave that area after solving the puzzle of getting his muses where he wants them,
Yeah.
he's like, so and so gets sassy at this time,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the man goes like, "Her."
Yeah.
And I was like, oh God, what are you doing with these muses? It's like,
It's for art.
Yeah.
yeah, artists are weird. Just
Isn't
kidding.
your mom an artist?
Yeah, she's weird. No, I thought that was it was funny, but then a lot of the dialogue you get with Mr. Shrub was, and I wrote down my favorite little interaction of quotes between you and Mr. Shrub.
I think it's just shrub.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
The shrub.
He
shrub.
he gets introduced. I think she calls him Mr. Shrub, and then he's like, "It's just Shrub."
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But you're kind of talking about how you didn't fit in at home, and so you're looking for somewhere where you would fit in. And then he asks, "What does that mean to you to fit in?" And I was just wondering what that meant to you guys to fit in.
Well, I think that's kind of what everyone wants, right? They all want like a connection or a community of people that they can relate to and be a part of. Maybe that's just what she's trying to find.
Is that what fitting in to you is having a community that you can connect with?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. When you ask that question, I like become socially anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that for me, fitting in is really just being in a space where I feel like I can be myself. And I
Hmm.
think that's what Gemma kind of alludes to. And this game did a really good job of kind of morphing the way I was thinking about it. You think to fit in is to be like everyone else,
Hmm.
but it's not really to be like everyone else. It's to find a group of people where you can be your like true and honest self.
Hmm.
So you're fitting in, but you're not conforming to the way you think people want you to act. You've just found a group of people that accept you for who you are, and I liked
I
that.
think that's
Yeah.
really nice. Yeah, I
I
didn't do any
just
deep thinking like you did, but like
yeah.
I think like I generally just don't want to be noticed ever.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are environments like here with you guys where I'm just relaxed and I am not like that. So
Yeah.
like I feel like I fit in.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I fit in here too.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, and then Shrub,
Yeah.
because she asks, "Don't you get lonely here?" And he says, "Sometimes, but it's hard to feel lonely when you're at peace with yourself." And
That was a deep quote.
yeah, that was another line that I was like, "That's so true."
Mm-hmm.
It's taken me 30 years. I mean, I think before 30 years, but now that I'm 30, I'm at a point where I am very at peace with myself. And I really value my time that I spend alone. Whereas when I was younger, being alone felt kind of hard. I think a lot of young people find it really hard to be alone because who's at peace with themselves at 15 years old?
Yeah, for sure.
But and maybe even people at 30 are still trying to come to terms with and find peace with themselves. But I've found that to be very true. The more at peace I am with myself, the harder it is to feel lonely.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, just thought that was the deep talk that I wanted to sneak in here because I really enjoyed that part of the game. So,
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
yeah. But enough of that. Enough of those.
Let's get back to the silly shit
Feels.
that Shrub says.
He does bring out a painting that he doesn't remember painting it, but it matches the symbol that's on your back.
Mm-hmm.
Do we ever figure out what this symbol means?
Well, it's like the
A ranger symbol. I
yeah,
thought.
it's like the symbol
Yeah.
of like the Arranger clan or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think, yeah, that is.
Not very well defined though.
No, but again, it doesn't matter. But Shrub takes you, kind of pushes us into the second act. He takes you up through a secret path to this overlook.
Well, actually, this is the quote that I wrote down for Shrub.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Because he says that he is too old. He needs to be carried up the hill.
oh yeah,
And so you have to pull him up the hill or push him or however you get him there. But then when you get there, you'll say like, Shrub, like I took you up here. Like, are you gonna be able to get down safely? And he just says, a little tuck and roll never hurt anyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this like old man with bad knees, he's just gonna like roll down the hill.
Yeah.
He'll be fine.
Yeah, he's good.
Yeah, so you get to this overlook and you can see these two very distinct areas, and in between them, they're separated by what you've been calling the hold. And the hold is what is keeping this static at bay, and you're still trying to figure out what this static is.
Mm-hmm.
So Shrub tells you that if you head to the area on, it would be on the left side of your screen, that is Meriton, and he thinks you might be able to find some more information about this symbol that he's painted and that you have on your back. So you head down to Meriton. There's a little space in between Meriton and what was it called? I don't remember what this little
It's a little overlook
outside.
hill. Yeah, I don't remember. What
Yeah.
It's
called
like
either.
Herseth or Hervseth.
Oh, Hervith?
Hervith. Maybe
Mhm.
that's what it is. I didn't write it down. But you meet Zoo Creeper in this area, who is another very
Oh, yeah.
creepy guy. We'll get back to him. I'm gonna give a brief synopsis of what happens in this act. You make your way down to Meriton. You meet a collection of people that live down there, and they've all become quite isolated because of this invention that the inventor has created.
Yeah, the mechanical birds.
Yeah, they've made it so no one needs to leave their houses, so no one does. And that has created actually a lot of static activity, like you'll see on their doors. And it's your job. You need to get all these people out of the house so you can get into the inventor's area, his lab. But you need everyone. You need the collaboration of this entire town to get you in there so you can destroy this bird invention that's been really just separating everybody. So, and after you do that, you have your boss battle, and there ends up being a huge flood that washes you away after this boss battle. And you think that you've ruined Meriton, but it sounds like you've kind of just cleansed it a little bit. No one's upset.
Yeah. In Meriden, it starts with like you're at the diner and you're like talking to the person at the diner and they're like, no one eats here. Like, it's like, oh, okay. Yeah, everyone uses these birds.
Yeah, I feel like there's some sort of like social commentary with these birds because everybody's like staying at home. Like they just have the bird bring them stuff. Like anything they need, the bird takes care of. And like,
it's Amazon and DoorDash.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
or like just being on your phone. Like they're not interacting with one another or leaving the house. They're just hanging out at home on the couch, and a bird takes care of them.
That's what I got from that. Is like, man, that really feels like somewhat of today's society of like everyone's just at their house and they don't want to leave their house and they have something drop something off at their front door and that's it. Like, that definitely that same feel. There's also a love story that's involved with this.
Oh, it's a great love story.
Yeah.
Coob and Shofty.
Yeah.
Coob and Shofty.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So sweet. But yeah, you spend this whole time, you do get a bunch of different puzzles in this area. There's on your way, it's kind of like a rapids puzzle where you have to traverse through these rapids and they'll like force you a certain way, so you have to go on the right block to make sure that you go the whole rapids without getting kicked backwards. You get some lasers show up somewhere. I don't remember where.
It's got to be in the lab, right?
I would think so. I don't know why I wrote it so early.
Yeah, I think it was in the lab.
Yeah, but
you have to go after the inventor, and then the inventor's like, you're trying to beat the old inventor's invention.
Yeah, like the inventor's like, nobody can outsmart me except for me from the present. Like I can outsmart myself from 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of things went down 3 months ago in this game.
Yeah.
Well, and you also you get like this raft for the first time. So this is the first time you're having sort of raft puzzles. There's a tool that recalls your raft.
Oh, you get a fish here too. There's the fishing puzzle too.
I noted on here, because Rylan, I know you have feelings about fishing sims. How did you feel about this kind of fishing?
It was fine. It was better than most fishing mini games.
Yeah. I'm trying to think if I had any puzzles that I really liked. We haven't talked about it because we kind of flew right to Meriton, but in between where Zoo Creeper is.
Oh, yeah.
I hate the way that they drew him. Like he's on all fours, but he's like sticking his butt up. And I didn't like it.
I liked Zoo Creeper. He was so funny. And also, like, I don't know. I just respect a man that's like, let me look at these animals. Like,
well, and he's trying to get the animals to get back together again, but the static has caused issues with that.
Yeah.
So
he's trying to get them to mate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he wants you to mate, or he wants you to pair up some snakes, some cassowaries, and some orangutans. And specifically, when you get to the area with the orangutans, he's like, just look at those burly dreamboats. So good.
That puzzle was so hard to me.
With the bananas?
The bananas.
Yeah.
You had to,
that took me a little while.
You had to like lead the orangutans with the banana. But if you left the banana in front of them for too long, they would just eat it.
Yeah.
And it was so frustrating. It took me such a long time. The other two puzzles I didn't have any issues with.
No, the snake one I thought was really clever with like the pipes that you have to line and push them through. That was fun. I don't even remember the cassowary one. I think it was so easy.
Yeah, they like, you had to like nudge them and you like, it was kind of weird. It was really easy, but you just couldn't, they didn't move with you. You had to like nudge them.
You had to like push them kind of.
Yeah. But this is kind of a little extra like side quest you can go on, but it gets you a little bit more information on arrangers, because once you've solved all 3 of these puzzles, you can go into a special cave room, and then there's a floating puzzle. And you get a couple of these. You get 2 or 3 of these throughout the game. Rylan, you're shaking your head.
This was the only part of the game I did not like. These goddamn slide puzzles were so hard.
Oh, they were so hard.
I cannot do a slide puzzle to save my life.
The second slide puzzle I did, I solved it in 4 slides.
What?
It was an accident, but I was like, wow.
That took
insane.
me like 20 plus minutes to like keep sliding around. And I'm like, what am I doing wrong here? Like, such a pain.
It's only a 3x3 slide puzzle.
Yeah.
I don't know. That probably makes it harder actually than a bigger one. But
Well, there's only one empty space. And like I was telling you guys this earlier, I used to do these number slide puzzles all the time. So it would be numbered 1 through 8. And then the 9th square is empty, but you shuffle it all up and you have to kind of shuffle all the numbers so you get them back in order. And that's exactly what this puzzle was.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew in my brain, I have like the trick for kind of getting something in a space and then cycling a piece through to get it into space. And then so you there's a strategy to it that I was like flashed back into my childhood.
I think there's just something about people named Emma because like my partner was helping me for the second one. And then when I was doing the third one, I had to wait for her to come back from work so I could just hand her the controller because I was like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a problem with it. But again, this is kind of the way that my brain, these were the activities I was doing as a cool kid. But yeah, so you get a snippet from this little puzzle. It doesn't give you a ton of information, but it does. A generous world, open minds grasping, finding purchase in one another, boundaries as curiosity, enrichment as riches, knowledge as power, enough for all, too much for some, we arrangers, we keep the balance. What did that mean to you guys?
I was just happy I was done with the puzzle. I'll be honest, none of these temples I connected with in a meaningful way.
I actually missed a whole temple, but they repeated the same words in one of the temples.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Huh.
When I was watching the like run through on a YouTube video, because I knew I had missed one, it said the same thing as the first one. And I was like, huh?
That's weird.
It was weird. I feel like it shouldn't have been that way, but
I couldn't tell you because I was just like wiping the sweat off my brow and just
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Holding my brain for a few minutes. I was
Yeah.
like, golly.
Yeah, but yeah, you meet a ton of people. Most notably is Zoo Creeper, Coob, Coob's dad, Mr. Chef.
oh yeah, Mr. Chef.
Yeah,
I forgot
he was
about
pretty
him.
cool. He was around later as well. But yeah, so you kind of work through their whole town and help them fix their isolation problem. And this is when I kind of started noticing that the static, it seemed to manifest around these like isolating feelings. So people that were isolating themselves, static was drawn to their doorstep. And so I started wondering, I was like, I wonder if like loneliness and isolation in like a bad way is manifesting this static, because you also had Nimbus, who went out on his own, was just completely attacked by static. And so I was like, I wonder if he was just like really lonely, or like,
Oh, that's so sad.
but not like the old man says, not at peace with himself, because that old man's been out by himself for a long time and just
Well, he's got his muse.
that's true.
Yeah.
Sheep man.
Yeah, but he said he was at peace with himself, so it was hard to be lonely. So that's when I started wondering. I was like, is loneliness and like isolation something that's where the static thrives? So
Yeah. The feeling of stagnation within oneself. Like,
yeah, it does say that at one point. I don't remember when it says. You're right, stagnation.
yeah.
So there's a love story in the town. Mr. Chef's child, Coob, and Shofty, one of the other kids or young people in the town. They are in love, but it's somewhat forbidden by Shofty's parents. So Coob tells you, have you ever loved someone so much that you want to barf up your skeleton?
Oh my God, I wrote that quote down too.
It's
Yeah.
so gross to me. I don't like barf,
I
but
know.
man,
I was like, geez. Yeah, it's young love though.
Yeah.
That's definitely the way you
Mhm.
feel as as like a younger person.
ugh, I hate it.
Yeah.
So this is one of the secret achievements that you were talking about. I don't know if you guys did this, but when you go to Shofty's house, this was so funny to me to like collect Shofty to help. You have to pair Shofty up with Coob to help open the door to the lab in the town that's
Yeah.
called.
Meriton.
Thank you. So you go in and they're like, "Who the hell are you?" And you're like,
You're the toilet.
I'm here to
Oh,
repair
yeah.
the toilet." And they're like, "Thank goodness." So you go in and like you go past the dad and then you go past the mom, and at the back of the house is the bathroom and there's the toilet in there. And like you can see Shofty in her room or his room or their room.
Their room.
Yeah. But like the door's locked. So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can't go in there yet. So and I don't know if you guys did this at all, but I went up to the toilet and like it's like, okay, I'm like at the toilet, but I don't know what to do. So I took the toilet with me outside.
Oh yeah.
So there's an achievement for stealing the toilet
Oh my
because
God.
you can't get it past mom and dad without like blocking their line of sight.
Oh.
So later or you're supposed to get Shofty by looping backwards so that you can get into their room. And then also like block the parents' line of sight so you can get Shofty out of the house. But I did that first with the toilet. And then once I got it out there, I was like, wait, what the hell am I doing? Like,
I did not do that. That's so funny.
it is.
Well, and I love when you pick them up because they're like, what are you doing here? Like they're asking like, what's going on? And you're like, I'm trying to break you out of here. But I had to say I was a toilet inspector. And they're like, oh, that's my dad's number one possession is that toilet. Like, okay, cool.
It was like a golden toilet or something. I
It was a
think.
very
Yeah.
nice toilet. Yeah.
Yep. That's so funny.
It's so silly. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the achievement that I got. I didn't get this achievement, but there's like a little mini puzzle where Zoo Creeper is. I don't know if you noticed those ants that were crawling on the ground.
Yeah, I got that one.
And you could lead the ants to that ant hill. I didn't do it, but I saw it later.
Yeah, I kind of did it by accident. Like I started to do it because you have to do it in a couple different stages. And I was like, oh, what do you do with this? So I played with that. I thought like the raft puzzle in this area, like thought that was such a cool tool. Like
Yeah.
the flexibility of like altering the space of the grid, I thought was like really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Yeah, so lots of cool puzzles, lots of fun characters, lots of funny lines and meaningful lines. But after you leave Meriton, you get to this final boss. And this one's similar to your other one. You have to use, oh gosh, was this the bird pecking one with the eyes? Yeah, you had to.
Yes.
This one you had to specifically move the birds so they were pecking all of these little eyeballs on different places, but you also had to be using your raft to get to different islands where the eyes were. And the last round of this took me such a long time to solve because you had to move one of the birds to a different island.
Yeah.
And it was so difficult.
Well, and even trying to figure out how to move the bird to the other island was hard, but then you had to still line them all up perfectly.
Yeah, and move them at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
This is another like good example I thought of a really creative like puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
So many good puzzles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because you really had to think raft movement / the movement of all the other birds at the same time and trying to get them to all line up. And it took me a while. It took me a while to get that one. So.
Yeah. But once you finished that, you kind of wash out from the tidal wave of defeating that boss. Shofty and Coob fly off with you because they were escaping. And then that brings you kind of like almost you wake up next to Robbie. You've washed up in that main kind of overlook area. And you think you've done something bad, but it turns out that everyone's totally okay with it. but you have a little mini dream where you're chasing someone. It's like a little shadow.
Oh, yeah.
And that just happens. And then you wake up in this shrine area, and apparently you sleptwalk in there. And it looks like you need another person to do something in there. So we'll come back to that. But moving into Act 2, this is where you go over to Flax. Sorry, Act 3. Going into Act 3, this is when you head over to Flax, the other area. I think you've run into Mr. Help.
You do run into Mr.
I think you
Help,
did that
pretty
earlier,
sure.
who he doesn't help you ever.
He's useless.
Yeah.
Well, and he's trying to ask, like, how can I be helpful? And Gemma's like, well, you could just ask someone about their day. Like, how are you doing?
Yeah.
And like, he's like, oh, okay. Like
another just like small lesson.
I forgot about Mr. Help.
I know, because he's so unhelpful.
He's so random.
Yeah. But Act 3, you head over to Flax, and this also has a little in-between travel world. You meet Hebo and Tharth, and they escaped Flax. And
What are these names?
I know,
Yeah.
this is seriously
The whole
like
game is like this.
yes, and then you meet Guy, who lost his necklace, and you can, kind of as the little bonus puzzle in this area, go into 3 different mines and get gems for each miner. And each miner, you're like, if I get this gem for you, you need to make this necklace for Guy. And they all kind of trick you into giving it to them, and then they're like, I'm not going to do that. But once you've given all 3 of them the gem, they decide that they're going to...
Yeah, they make a necklace for Guy, and he says, it's even gaudier and less practical than my last necklace.
yeah. Well, in like the last miner, you're like walking past him and he just swipes it from you. He's like, yeah, I'm not letting you do that.
Yeah.
Like, I'm taking that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought this area was pretty fun. I like the puzzles in these mines.
Oh, yeah, they had really cool puzzles. They had like they had mine cars everywhere, but there was a goggle guy. I don't know, like when you were in his area,
Oh, I called him the spooky monkey.
I don't even know how to describe him, but
Well,
yeah.
he had a zone of the map that was like lit up a certain way, and if you were within that area, he would move the same way that you moved.
Yeah.
So if he could not move, then you also could not move. So you kind of had to be strategic about when you went into that area, what you did in that area, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was the retracting rope puzzle where you would have to move a certain amount of spaces to pull this rope mechanically, and then basically however far, like the distance that you pulled the rope, that's how many moves you had to get past this door before it closed. I found this to be very difficult, but super fun to solve.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last one made me scratch my head for quite a bit on that one.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was difficult. And then the last one was just spikes. The spike ones were easy.
Yeah, those ones were really easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this is another floating puzzle that you guys hated. This is the one that I think I did in like 4
Yeah, this is
moves
the one
on
that took me like
accident.
20 minutes to figure out.
Oh,
It was
no.
really a pain.
But this one also says an unsure world, impressionable minds grasping, not finding purchase, boundaries as temptation, enrichment as pretense, doubt as power, not enough, never enough, we arrangers, we were feared. So it's kind of a progression of the feeling of arrangers, and it's very cryptic. I still don't know what it means, to be honest, but we won't dwell on it, honestly.
You'll have to replay the game.
Yeah, but you get through, when you actually get to Flax, there are a bunch of characters, like so
Weird
many
characters.
characters, and they are all named Nobody.
Yeah.
Sad.
It's very sad. And this is another moment of like isolation where you meet the people around town, and you do meet a couple of them, and they're all supposed to be uniform and the same. No one's supposed to be different than anyone else, but you have this person that makes all of the headdresses that are the same for everybody, but in their back room, they have a secret hoard of all of these unique hats that they've made. And I can't remember what the other one was. I don't know if it was like you meet someone, you're supposed to like make a song with like strumming this string at different lengths, and you show them like a different tune.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I like that.
Yeah, that's way
Yeah.
better than ours. Like, yeah.
So it's kind of in this area like the breaking of the mold
Mhm.
and going against the grain. And I think this kind of ties into us talking about how you can act and the same as everyone else, but still not feel accepted or
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
There's like this big crowd of people that you move through, and one of the guys is like shaking differently than everybody else. And so you can interact with him, and he's just like really antsy in the crowd or something like that. And so
Yeah.
you kind of tell him like, it's okay to be you.
Mhm.
And he feels better, and it's very nice.
Yeah.
I found this section really funny because when you first get into this area, you're talking to the like head person. There's a bunch of people that are like in the shadows beside you, and they're all just like yelling out the thing that he's saying at that time. And I just I just laughed. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole story of this area is funny because it's like the town of Flax was destroyed again 3 months ago by a static beast, and so they
Yeah.
all moved underground, and they formed like this like cult
Yeah.
of uniformity.
Yeah.
And like, so they have everything like nailed down to like exactly what you're supposed to do at every moment, and like all this started 3 months ago, and everybody's like, this is the way we do it.
Yeah.
Like as of 3 months ago.
As of 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was very funny. I felt like this part was a little short, but I think it was because you meet someone very important in this area because you kind of go against their conformity. You don't really want to do what they want you to do, and they end up throwing you in the dungeon, basically.
Yeah.
They throw you in the weirdest pit, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you meet,
Mog.
Yeah. Mog.
thanks, another very memorable, unique name.
Yeah.
Mog. But Mog is like you, and their outline is the outline of the shadow that you were chasing during your dream. And so you finally found someone like you, and you kind of have this very exciting moment where both of the characters are excited to be meeting each other, but it's like, but we have to get down to business. We have to get out of here, and like we have to save everybody because we need to fix what's going on with the hold. And you escape.
Yeah, I really like the puzzle sequence that occurred after this because you and Mog are trying to get out of the space at the same time. So you see Mog and you in this puzzle sequence, and it's equal on each side, but you're trying to figure out how to get out. And you guys are linked together. That's this part, correct? Yeah? Okay. I just want to make sure. And you're linked together, or you can be unlinked. So you can do stuff independently of Mog or be together and get yourself out. So I thought that was pretty unique. And that was pretty fun. So
Yeah.
Yeah. And we kind of skipped over the like the kind of claw like zip line puzzles.
Oh yeah, that was
like
fun.
they like kind of like shoot you across like over spaces. And this is where the furniture and mattress achievement is. If you go the way that Guy came from, because you know when you enter that area, Guy comes from a different
Yeah, he like kind of shows you how to
trajectory.
use the zip
yeah.
lines.
If you go back and backtrack the way that he came, you get to this dead end, but it's like a big armchair. And when you get there, it goes furniture and mattress. Dun.
Oh, maybe I
That's
went
cool.
there, but I don't remember that. So maybe I didn't quite trigger it, or maybe I just forgot.
Yeah, and so that was that little Easter egg, their little.
Furniture and mattress.
But you end up back in the little hub world, and you solve that puzzle with Mog, and it kind of, this is the final key that it takes to figure out that Arrangers were the ones that kind of kept this balance of power, and I don't really know how to
I don't
explain
know,
it. It
yeah.
wasn't explained super, it's still very cryptic, but basically they were saying that they failed, but if you as Arrangers, basically it says, and it's too late for us, but you've come this far. Perhaps it's not too late for you. You may very well be the last of us, but you're already the best of us. So it's like they've failed to keep the peace. And it's your turn to figure this out. Act 4, we're going into the hold because we've figured out the hold isn't what it says that it is.
Somehow we figured that out.
It was in that long, that place where you unlock with Mog. I didn't read the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
But it kind of talks about, it's that stagnation line that Sean said earlier. The hold is not the protector it may seem. It's a harvest of static, a conduit of stagnation.
Yeah, so they're realizing, like, apparently, like, everyone in this area thought that the hold was protecting them from the static, and that's why they were worshiping the hold, because it was protecting them from all the static, but really it was the conduit of it. And it was
naughty.
Yeah, and you go in there and find that people actually live there, and they're using...
They're living, for
They're-
sure.
It's a freaking party
They're
when
living
you
it
walk
up.
in there. It's like a club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like some lo-fi beats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lo-fi beats to subjugate to.
Yeah, but well, you find out that the hold it's tricking people into thinking that they need it there to protect them, and it actually is creating this isolation and stagnation and loneliness. And the people who live in the hold are feeding off of that energy that they are harvesting from these people. So they need people to be scared, and they need people to want to stay isolated, because that's what's fueling what we end up finding out is their immortality. So breaking that down, yeah, you guys, we get in there and it's a dance party.
Yeah, it's the freaking club in there.
Yeah. I actually really liked this puzzle with the
Attendance.
the static servant.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you would go in and it's kind of like they're the bouncer and they follow you around, but you can leave them at their own little like bell station.
Yeah.
It did take me a minute because like when you first get in there, you have the one guy that follows you while you can like visit the line and like you see where the DJ line is and stuff, or the DJ booth is. But I didn't realize how to lose him for quite a while, even though I like had gone to that little outside area multiple times. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, it took me a second too.
I did it on accident. He was like following me around and I'm like, man, I can't get anywhere. And then I just like randomly went somewhere and he was gone and I'm like, oh, okay. So
Nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and they play off this puzzle for the majority of this area where sometimes you're collecting multiple static servants and then having to go through all of their little seating areas. Like you'll collect 5 of them, and then you'll have to go through a very specific path, so you only lose 4 of them, so you still have 1, so you can get out. It's complicated to explain, but
That was kind of a weird puzzle, I thought, because it didn't really use the grid mechanism, unlike everything else.
Yeah. Yeah, this was an interesting space too because you're trying to get into the VIP section. So that way you can get to the boss essentially. But there's a giant line, and when you're talking to the people in the line, they're like, "Oh yeah, I've been here for a few years, but it's okay, no big deal." And it's like, "Oh my gosh,
I like this song. It's been playing for 12 years.
Yeah.
for sure." So one of the things you have to do is try to get the people out of the line so you can get into the VIP section. And the other people are like, "Oh, we hate the spotlight on us. We wish it would move somewhere else. That's why we're in line." And it's like, okay, so you have to go and change the spotlights, and that's a puzzle within itself. The DJ puzzle, you talk to the guy at the DJ booth, or I guess the DJ, and he talks about how he has another song, but this one's been playing for so long, it's so good, why would we change it? And you're like, well, let's just change it up. I bet another song would hit just as good as this one's hitting. And as you do, that new record breaks and shatters. That puzzle took me a while to get because
that one was hard.
it was
Oh,
hard.
really?
Yeah,
I
I had a
struggled.
hard time with it
That
because
was boring, easy.
Really?
Oh,
What?
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
dang.
Sean, I was also stuck on that puzzle for a while.
Yeah, it's weird because like there's 2
They're like discs.
Yeah, discs. That one's on one side and that's the old track, and then you're trying to get the new track on. But it shatters into small circles that are in squares. So as you're trying to move around, the disc will start moving as well, depending if you're going vertical or horizontal against the disc. So it rotates. It took me a minute to figure it out. So
Yeah, and you have to fit like the smaller pieces back into the disc, and if you move it in a certain way, it was just tedious. And if you made one wrong move, then you kind of had to like circle back. So there was a space,
Yeah.
especially on the last when there's only one little piece left and one little circle, and you had to line it up perfectly.
Yeah, just right.
But yeah, that one and what was the other puzzle?
There was an egg puzzle
an egg puzzle.
where you had to deliver the egg. Did you guys go in the kitchen?
No.
no.
Oh, there's like
Wait.
you can go in the kitchen here, and there's like one of the monsters that like you had stabbed earlier in the game. Well, first there's an area where they said like, oh no, if we get stabbed, we just pop up here. It's fine.
I forgot about this
like
part.
they don't care if you stab them. Like you've been stabbing them all game to get rid of them. They don't care. But there's a chef, and they're like, oh, you can help by getting an egg from over there. And so this egg, you have to carry through it in a very specific way. If you make one wrong move, though, the egg will break and you have to start over. This was a tricky one.
I didn't do this one.
That sounds rough.
Yeah.
It was because, like pretty much everything else in this game, like you can just keep moving forward until you get it. But this, you would have to like basically start over, go get a new egg and like figure out the exact path to take. So it was hard.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't talk about it. There's like a whole forest area that I missed. And it's in between like Flax and I can't even remember how you get there. I think it's on your way back from Flax or
No, it's
is it?
it's on your way to Shrub is the first time you get there, but you do walk you can walk through it again like when you're done in Meriton.
Yes.
Shrub says like, oh, like you can come here for more secrets or you can come back later.
I completely forgot to go back, and we didn't talk about it.
It was boring.
But I watched a little walkthrough on it, and I mean, it looked like nothing really happened, but I just wanted to bring it up because I had forgotten to talk about it.
Yeah, they had like the fireflies that you would find
Like-
or whatever.
Yeah.
And there was it was like there was an invisible path for one of them. Another one had like a doorway that was hidden. So like if you looped in that spot, you can get into the secret room.
Yeah.
It wasn't that interesting.
Yeah. Other than that, once you get through this whole like dance room puzzle, you get into the VIP area.
Vipers inside, pal.
Yeah.
That's what they said.
You get all the way to these like final bad guys. And they called themselves the Static Quo.
Yeah.
That was clever.
Yeah.
That was.
I'm giving them props for that.
And they end up capturing Gemma in Static. And then you get to play through as Mog because Mog is like, she's been in there for too long. I need to go get her. And then you guys basically use the power of friendship. Well, Mog kind of tricks the people. You put them in a certain way, like in a certain space, and then they lose the static connection with Gemma. Gemma has to follow Mog's voice to get out of her little dream state, and then you destroy the place. But this puzzle leading up to this final battle was so hard for me.
Oh, really?
Because you were moving like pieces of machinery so you could get across other areas, and you had to pick it up in the right way, and you had to move it the right way.
And you had to be like, oh, okay, I need to be grabbing it from this side. And then you had to figure out like, how can I set it down even?
Yeah.
So that I can pick it up.
Yeah, because you could only set it down in like a floating space. Like it couldn't be on the tile that you were on. So that was pretty difficult. Yeah, it took a little bit for me to figure that out too.
Yeah, but that's kind of like your last puzzle for the most part. And then you destroy the hold, and you have this final cutscene with Mog where you guys are floating back, and you kind of just have this like, I don't know, this camaraderie. You're like, I'm so glad I found you. And
Yeah, it's nice.
it's really nice. But again, I was like, there's so many questions I had that didn't get answered.
Maybe that's not important, and that's the point.
Maybe not. But that's it. That's the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you guys watch the little art in the credits
Mm-hmm.
of like the little everybody that you met along the way like joins up and like
Yeah.
kind of builds the community back together, which I thought was really sweet. Shrub receives a hat from the like a unique hat from
Yeah.
the hat maker guy.
Yeah.
It was just really nice
Yeah.
at the end.
But it was a nice game.
Yeah, it was fun.
I think yeah, it was really special.
Yes.
That's a ranger.
Yeah, and this concludes the discussion episode for Arranger. Please join us next week for our spoiler-free review of The Dark Side Detective. This is my pick, and will be followed by its spoiler-free discussion episode the week after. Please go and give the podcast 5 stars if you liked what you heard, and give us a follow. We love new followers. We talked about it on our last episode. It's just so fun to know that we have like a little community kind of on this journey with us.
Yeah.
It's growing.
It's a
So
wonderful
exciting.
time. So
Send us an email.
yeah, if you have any comments, questions, or constructive criticism, you can email us at letmebeyourgg@gmail.com. You can also send us any game requests if you have something you'd like us to review. You can find us on Instagram as letmebeyourgg, and our Patreon can be found at patreon.com/letmebeyourgg. I don't have TikTok on here, but this past week, one of our TikToks blew up, so I guess go to our TikTok at Let Me Be Your Game Guide.
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out.
And when I say blow up, I mean like 2,000 people saw it, but that was crazy for
That's
me.
big for us.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening. We can't wait to see you next week, and thank you so much for letting me be your game guide. GG, y'all.
Bye.
Bye. Cool.
Okay.
Dope city.
Dope City. Buy yours today.
Oh my God.